You are tuning in to Financial Fitness Northwest live on KKNW, where we help you navigate the mortgage and real estate market with expert advice from knowledgeable and trustworthy industry professionals. Now in studio, we have Matt Makowicz. Matt is a top producing realtor on Bainbridge Island, Washington. It's a bedroom community of Seattle. He's winning awards for client satisfaction and taking the best care of his clients through some of the most critical life transitions is what he is most passionate about. Matt is a single father of 4 children who live with him on Bainbridge Island, and they are in the 7th grade, 8th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade. Matt is a member of Rotary and a Little League umpire. He volunteers often in his community and has coached youth football and Little League teams, as well as been an assistant scout master.
Wow.
Awesome. You're a busy guy.
You are.
I am.
Busy dad.
I know, with 4 teenagers. I can't imagine what that household's like.
It's pretty chaotic, but we try to make it organized chaos as much as we can.
Yeah. Awesome.
So do all your kids play baseball then?
2 of them used to,
Okay.
but they sort of grew out of it.
Okay.
And but we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There was a championship season that was a ton of fun. But and I stay involved as an umpire from time to time, and I have a lot of friends that have kids in the Little League, and it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
Does she play sports?
She played some softball, but really she found her passion in mixed martial arts.
Oh.
She's really little, like 5th percentile. Okay.
Well, don't mess with her.
But as the only girl in a house full of brothers and a dad, she is tough as nails, and she is the loudest and sort of most energetic, it seems, every time I visit her in one of her MMA classes.
Wow,
I love
that's
that.
awesome.
It's like, you just see this little unassuming little girl, and then, hiya! Look out, she'll take you down, right?
I love it. The littles usually have the biggest roar. That's how it is in our house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Well, thanks for joining our show. We're excited to hear about your real estate business. Can you tell us just a little bit about, how'd you get into real estate and how long you've been doing this?
Sure. I got my license about 3.5 years ago, actually, over here in Washington. I moved from New Jersey about 7 years ago, and I was in the technology industry, and I was a consultant to the tech industry. And when I came out here, I was doing a lot of traveling, and I sort of needed to be a little bit more around for the kids and needed something a little bit more flexible. So I got my real estate license. I've always known a lot about real estate, always seemed to know a lot more than the average bear about it, loved it, always been around it, different developers and flippers and builders and agents and commercial and residential and so forth. So I jumped right in and really just started working it full time and passionately right away. And I'm sort of proud of the way I begun my start, because a lot of people, when you start as a real estate agent, they say, well, make sure you have like 6 months or a year of savings. You might not get your first transaction for half a year or something like that. And I listened, but I just tried to work as hard as I could. And I did an open house the very first weekend. I didn't even have access to the MLS, and found a client and wrote up a contract in 11 days after I had my license and had my first closing. And people said, oh, they patted me on the back. Good job. That was lucky.
Was a fluke.
That was a fluke. That was a lucky, And by that summer, I was in the middle of 8 transactions and had a very successful first year and continued that success. And it's just fun. I mean, I love what I do. I joke with people that it fits my short attention span. My clients, a lot of my clients become friends. A lot of my friends become clients, and it's just great. I love it.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's awesome. I can just imagine the agents in the office that you work in probably like, okay, what are you doing? Here, you're brand new to the business. What are you doing? How can you help us figure it out? Because it's not easy. It takes a while to build a business for most people.
Yeah,
So-
it's I just sort of, I don't always take everything on face value. A lot of people have advice. I take it all in, and I work with some really fantastic people, and they gave me some great advice, and I just tried to work as hard as I could, and didn't assume anything that was limiting.
Right.
And just and
That's
I
great.
take the same approach when I'm with my clients. And well, we can't get the house. Well, maybe we can. And I think we might talk about that a little today.
Positive attitude goes
Absolutely.
a long way, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So when you moved here, did you move straight to Bainbridge, and that's where you lived from the beginning, or how?
Yeah, I moved right from New Jersey to Bainbridge Island. Doesn't everybody do that?
I don't feel
think
like
so.
that's like a really normal transition.
No, it's not a normal transition. Like I said, I was in the technology industry,
Yeah.
and so I wanted to come out to Seattle after my divorce and everything in New Jersey and sort of get a fresh start for the kids and I. And so I was drawn to the Seattle area. And when I was looking at all the neighborhoods of Seattle, it was sort of, where are the good schools and things like that. And I looked at a lot of neighborhoods on the east side of Seattle, and I looked at Bainbridge Island. And it was then and still is now sort of a bargain in terms of a neighborhood of Seattle. I could still commute and things like that. And even though I'm not in the technology industry anymore, that's sort of what brought me out here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, that's really good. I mean, just kind of building on that, because I think people aren't as aware of Bainbridge, but we do have a lot of our clients that are moving to Bainbridge and commuting in to the city. And I mean, it's beautiful out there, right? So let's talk a little bit about Bainbridge and like what you get for your money out there versus like East Side. Because a lot of people probably commute in, right?
Yeah, they estimate about 80% of the people who are the working population of Bainbridge, which is only about 24,000 people, by the way, and the island itself, if you imposed it on Seattle, it goes from about Ballard to Kent. So it's a pretty large geography, about one person per acre, about 24,000 people.
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
So
That's
it
so cool.
really
I wanna
is
move.
this
I do too.
nice little kind of bedroom community, small town feeling, but we're just a ferry right away. So about 80% of the folks, they get on the ferry. A lot of them by walking or bicycle, some by car, and they'll come over to Seattle and they'll take a shuttle to their company or walk or if they're in a ride share or something like that. So it's very, very common. And we have direct access to the city. People go out to dinner in Seattle all the time. It's kind of a perceptual difference, right? So if you talk to a lot of the folks on the east side over here, they're like, oh gosh, the ferries, and my gosh, it's so far away.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
It takes the same 35 minutes in going in each direction, but just the perception. Whereas everybody that's over there says, oh no, the ferry's great. I have the same amount of commute you do, if not shorter, but I'm not white knuckling it on the freeway. I'm able to relax on the ferry. I can get work done. I can sleep if I want to. I can talk with my friends. I can even have a beer or a glass of wine on the way back. You can't necessarily do that on I-90.
You're selling me. You're selling me right now.
Right.
I know. I used to in my past life, and I worked downtown Seattle, and I always thought, commuting from the south end to downtown, which was a lot better back then than it is now. But I just thought a ferry commute, I mean, that's to die for. It's
really,
like you have the time. You don't lose the time. You can do whatever you want.
35 minutes. I'm writing this down. 35 minutes.
And you don't run into traffic jams out there on the water, right? It's pretty much the same every day.
Yeah, I mean, and you do occasionally get just spectacular views of Mount Rainier, the occasional breaching whale.
Yeah.
Some things like that.
We don't see those on 405
No,
either.
Not so
No.
much. Not so much.
Maybe the whale. I'm just kidding.
And you ask sort of what you get for your money over
Yeah.
there. It's interesting that it seems to be like this secret, and I don't know if it's just that perceptual distance thing, but you take a house that is $800,000 on Bainbridge, and you could put that on different neighborhoods here on the east side, whether we're talking Issaquah or Bellevue or Redmond or Mercer Island or so many other places, and it'll be between 20% and 50% more. So a lot of the folks, when they are frustrated over here in this ultra competitive seller's market and they can't find what they're looking for, and they sort of acquiesce to take a look at Bainbridge, they're usually pleasantly surprised with what they can get for their money.
But the prices are still, it's still pretty competitive over there, isn't it?
It's still very competitive.
Yeah.
We are a neighborhood of Seattle, so our real estate market behaves in quite the same way, just with a little bit of a less volume.
Okay.
So instead of having, if it's a hot property, that's going to be very sought after, instead of having 8 to 15 multiple offers, there'll be 2 to 4, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So I'm kind of curious, I guess I think of like, West Seattle, for instance, like West Seattle, it's kind of, I know that geographic area. It's sort of like people move to West Seattle and then they never leave West Seattle. That's just like where they are, I mean, is it Bainbridge? Is it like that? I mean, are people moving there and then, are people selling and rebuying on Bainbridge, or is it I guess I'm just kind of wondering, like, once they go there, do they stay, or?
A lot of times they do. About 1 in every 20, families maybe sort of say after a year or 3, we can't take it. We need, even though the ferry runs 23 times a day and 21 hours a day, they need more control than that. So they kind of can't take living and dying by the ferry schedule. But for the most part, people do stay. It really is a fabulous community. And, you can drive off the backside of the island to access the Kitsap Peninsula and, shopping malls in Silverdale. And the Olympic Peninsula is accessible, the Hood Canal, all those wonderful hiking and opportunities. And on Bainbridge itself, we have hiking. We have tons of parks. We have equestrian trails, mountain biking trails, lots of shore access, lots of activities. We have some people come. It's so funny. Do you guys have any restaurants here? Or we have 3 Thai restaurants. We have a sports pub. We have what we don't have is a lot of nightlife, which is fun. Yeah. But it is. We have great theaters, a lot of philanthropy, some not really tremendously robust art community. Just a lot of really wonderful and fantastic schools. Really excellent schools. I think Bainbridge High School was rated the 5th. Best high school in the state. Wow. And then the previous 2 years was ranked 7th. And then one of the 3 elementary schools we have on the island out of about 5,000 in the state was actually ranked number 1 in the entire state. A year or 2 ago, I can't recall.
That's amazing.
And the other 2 rank, I think, in the top 10% as well. So, we really do have really fabulous schools, and it's well-rounded. We have a lot of our sports programs are excellent. We can't necessarily compete with the Bellevue youth football and things like that, but water polo, swimming, golf, lacrosse, soccer. We have a tremendously robust soccer club, Little League, and also arts and music. The middle school band wins the county competition every year. Wow. We have a robotics team that wins.
Robotics is huge now.
It is. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot going on. People are really surprised. So that maybe more of an answer than you were looking for. But when
I love it.
Find the island, they sort of stay there, and sometimes they move around the island, kind of depending on their family and right sizing and things like that. We have some condos and houses sort of out in the woods and houses sort of close to town, and a lot of different types of communities there. So it's one big neighborhood, very diverse, very good.
Wow, perfect. Well, I'm glad you shared all that with us because I think people just don't know. I didn't know.
No.
So, you are basically the guru of houses on Bainbridge Island. So I'm wondering, can you share some of the tricks that if you're a buyer, you're in this market, you're looking to buy out there, what are some of the tricks that you have in either, listing or buying a home?
Well, when I'm working with buyers, sometimes they're so frustrated, they kind of get dejected before they even try. And, someone's going to pay cash and you can't beat cash. Well, I had a situation very recently, actually, where the buyer was not cash, was financed, and they were going up against a cash buyer, and they still won the property. And it came down to how the seller felt about these very similar offers despite the financing terms. And I make a lot of effort with my clients to put their best foot forward. So, sort of the tip that you're looking for is really, to work with an agent that is going to go the extra step and go the extra mile and do all these things that, quote unquote, shouldn't matter. I was talking earlier in the lobby with Cheryl from Jubilee here about, that sappy letter that a company's offers. That doesn't even happen a lot of times in Seattle anymore because it doesn't do anything because, it's 14 offers. But it matters. It's not supposed to work. It's not supposed to matter, but it
still does.
But it does,
yeah.
And it's sort of, if I can emotionally connect my clients who want to buy this house and love it for their family or for themselves or for whatever reason, to sellers who either are currently or used to be emotionally connected to that home, that's a plus. That's not a bad thing. So, it's a little warm and fuzzy. It's not necessarily a technical tip and trick, but it is something that I think makes a big difference because people are selling something that was near and dear to their heart for a long time. And it sort of, the money is important, but if they can feel better about it or good about who's getting the baton from them, I think that that goes a long way, and everybody kind of walks away with a real good warm and fuzzy.
Right.
Yeah, I know. It is emotional. It's their property, right? It's their home, so they probably want to feel good about the person that's going to take it over, especially, someone selling. But I was kind of curious. So in that, with the financed buyer, what are some things that you wish that the mortgage broker would tell their client?
That's a good question. Mm-hmm. I would think that, it might sound silly or self-serving here, but, if the mortgage broker could kind of remind them how awesome their real estate agent is every once in a while.
Well, I don't know who you're working with, but we always
build them up.
Yeah, they are amazing.
It's funny, but not all, right?
Yeah.
So I try to do that for my clients. Tell them, you're working with a really great, mortgage broker,
mm-hmm.
right? But, so to sort of say, hey, the I's are dotted here. This agent is working really hard. They're following up. Their communication is excellent. They're getting things done. You have good representation there, because the general public really has very little idea of how to pick an agent. A lot of times they'll who sold the house or who listed
their
the
name's
house,
on a sign, right?
Their name's on a sign,
mm-hmm.
or they'll ask somebody and they won't talk to more than one. They'll just talk to one. And just work with that person, and that's fine, and that works out a lot of the times. But it's a little bit of a roll of the dice. So asking some questions about, who would you recommend? I trust you as my mortgage rep. Who would you recommend? Who do you know that works really hard for their clients in this area?
Mm-hmm.
Who has time for me? Who works with buyers like me? Who gets the houses? For the buyers, and that's probably the thing I wish that they knew. But the one thing that I tell them to try to prepare them for the whole process is, when they're working with a finance situation, is to be prepared for getting multiple documents to their mortgage broker, even after you've gotten everything. Right?
Yeah.
And I tell them, I say, your mortgage broker is not an idiot. They're not incompetent. If they ask you for everything and you give them everything, and then they say 2 weeks later, hey, I need this, it's not that they're not doing their job. That's how the process works. Just be prepared, and that's just going to happen. And then when folks like that ask for something, try to get it to them immediately. Yeah. So just preparing them and kind of holding their hand through all the 100 moving parts that happen in the middle of a transaction.
I think that's good advice, and that's definitely something that we work on with our buyers, right?
Oh,
and, definitely working in the realtor and the lender are in it together.
Working
so we got to
team.
work as a team to help the buyer, and the buyer's our priority. So
then everyone's happy.
Thank you so much for coming on today.
Yes.
It was awesome. It went by way too fast. I feel like there's so many more things we could learn from you.
We'll have to have you back.
We will.
Would love to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And you guys are awesome to work with, and this was a lot of fun. So thanks a lot.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Financial Fitness Northwest. When we come back from break, we will have Anita Wilkins and Cheryl Cessnan with Jubilee Women's Center. They will be sharing the plight of homeless women in our area and what they are doing to help. To find out more topics discussed on today's show, you can find us online at www.financialfitness.com.